So today we are going to discuss the system design round at Oracle. So it was a high level design round for the Google Docs. Okay. So when we come to an high level design round, so it has a certain process that is followed by the standards. So one of them is the requirement gathering phase. Okay. That you have also gone through these experts. Okay. So in the requirement gathering phase, so it is not about what the system will be doing or how the things are going to be managed. That is generally not looked in this part. So here we need to clarify the problem for the interviewer, that what expects and what are the context in which he is looking for the answers in this design round. So here we can ask some of the common questions like who are the targeted users for us and what are the specific use of the application and the constraints that we need to address here. Okay. Then we need to look about the core requirements of the application, the functional requirements, right? Functional requirements of the application. For example, in our Google Doc, it can be that single users and multi users editing CRUD operations are possible for us. So this is our functional requirement, means what mainly we are looking for. Another thing can be the version history we are maintaining, that person can look after that for this document when it was lastly edited and who was the person who was editing that can be looked as in the functional requirements. Then other thing that comes is the out of the scope context also. For example, we need not to address everything here in a single hour of the interview. So we need to clarify from the interviewer also that what are the things that we need not to address here. It could be that the commenting that generally is available in the Google Docs, that is not we need to address here. Another comes the authentication and authorization part that we need not to address in this design round. Then comes the scaling part. For example, when we scale any system, so for how many users are we going to address that system? Means what is the daily active users? What would be the traffic hours that we need to manage? How many edit frequency for the document in a Google Doc could be there? Okay. How many number of concurrent users we need to make the system enable? Okay. Now comes the non-functional requirements of this design round. So here we need to address the trade-offs between the consistency, availability, and the partition tolerance. Okay. Then we can, since this is a Google Doc, so here we would be making that eventual consistency as many users are editing the same document simultaneously. Okay. Now after we have done with the requirement gathering, non-functional, functional, out of the scope, scalability, now we need to look after the API endpoints that we need to address here. For example, the user creation should be, means what will be the payload here, what will be the other aspects of the API that we need to make. Okay. That other API endpoints that we can address here is the retrieving the documents, updating the documents. We need to dive into the single user editing process. Okay. So here we need to address that how the URL structure is there. For example, it could be a flat URL or it could be a hierarchical URL. That hierarchical URL is generally seen in our laptops, right? In our document structure of our local system. But in the, for example, in the Notion or we can see the Google Docs, they don't maintain that. They use a flat structure so that they can address any person's document link. It could be a unique user ID for that. Okay. Then other aspect comes that how to represent that document, how to store that document, how the content in the document will be written, that we need to address here. Then other part comes the multi-user editing process. Since we discussed the single user editing right before, so here comes the multi-user editing, means how are we going to address document state for the different users, how are we going to handle the conflicts when multiple users would be editing the same document simultaneously. So here is one of the algorithm that Google Docs is currently using, is the operational transformation that I have explained in detail in the blog I have written, so you can browse through them and read in depth from there. So another aspect comes here with regard to the different protocols that we are using in our application. It could be the HTTP polling here, WebSocket here, server sent events could be there. So we need to choose that which would be the best here. Okay, so that I have also explained in detail in my blog. So the other constraints after addressing all the above could be the version history that we can maintain, how we need to maintain that, how we need to prevent that server overload from the frequent edits. So these all aspects I have covered in my blog. So yeah, that's all about this round. You need to go through these various aspects here and you need to answer in a cool manner. Yeah, so that's about it. So yeah, stay tuned. Bye everyone. Take care.